Every setback paves the way for a stronger finish. Audiobook. David grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Vancouver, British Columbia. Raised by a single mother who worked as a nurse, David understood the value of hard work from a young age. His mother often worked double shifts to ensure they could pay the bills, and David admired her resilience. Despite the financial challenges, David excelled in school and had a passion for sports, especially basketball. His dream was to earn a basketball scholarship and attend one of Canada's top universities. During his senior year of high school, it seemed like David's dream was within reach. He was one of the top players in the province, and scouts from various universities were attending his games. But just as everything was coming together, disaster struck. In the final game of the season, David landed awkwardly after a jump and tore his ACL. The injury was severe, and the doctors informed him that he would need surgery and months of rehabilitation. His basketball career was effectively over, and with it went the scholarships he had been offered. David was devastated. All the years of hard work felt wasted, and he sank into a deep depression. The next year was a difficult one. David watched as his friends went off to university, while he was stuck at home, recovering from surgery and working part-time jobs to support himself and his mother. The frustration of seeing his dreams crumble weighed heavily on him, but his mother's quiet strength kept him going. She reminded him that setbacks didn't define a person's future. "You can still be great, David," she often told him. "This isn't the end of your story." With time, David began to shift his perspective. He decided that if basketball wasn't in his future, he would pursue another passion: business. He enrolled in a local community college and started taking courses in economics and marketing. Though it wasn't what he had originally envisioned for his life, David began to find excitement in the world of business. However, just as things were looking up again, another setback hit. Midway through his second semester, David's mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. The news was crushing. As she underwent chemotherapy, David had to take on more responsibilities at home, and balancing school, work, and caregiving became overwhelming. He considered dropping out of college to care for her full-time, but his mother wouldn't hear of it. She urged him to keep pursuing his education. The next 2 years were grueling. David often worked late into the night after finishing his studies, and sleep became a luxury. There were moments when the weight of his responsibilities felt unbearable, but each time he considered giving up, his mother's unwavering determination gave him strength. She fought through her treatments with grace and resilience, becoming an inspiration to David. Despite the challenges, David excelled in his business courses. In his final year of college, he interned with a local startup that specialized in e-commerce. The experience was eye-opening, and for the first time since his injury, David felt like he had found his true calling. He had a knack for marketing and saw the potential of online businesses in an increasingly digital world. After graduating from community college, David decided to take a risk. He partnered with a friend from his internship and started an e-commerce company selling sustainable, eco-friendly products. They launched their website with little capital, but a lot of ambition. The first few months were tough. Sales were slow, and David struggled to get their name out into the market. It felt like yet another setback. But this time, David was ready. He remembered the lessons he had learned through his earlier hardships, the importance of perseverance, adaptability, and patience. He spent countless hours learning about digital marketing strategies, refining their business model, and building relationships with eco-conscious influencers. Gradually, their hard work began to pay off. Sales picked up, and within a year, their small startup gained a loyal customer base. The company grew, and they started expanding their product line to include clothing, home goods, and personal care items, all with a focus on sustainability. David's business became a hit not only in Canada, but also in the United States and Australia, where demand for eco-friendly products was surging. In time, David's e-commerce company became one of the fastest-growing businesses in the sustainability sector. His story was featured in several major business magazines, and he was invited to speak at conferences about his journey from a struggling student to a successful entrepreneur. Looking back, David realized that every setback he had faced had played a crucial role in shaping his success. If he hadn't torn his ACL, he might have gone to university on a basketball scholarship, but he would never have discovered his passion for business. If his mother hadn't battled cancer, he might never have developed the resilience and work ethic that allowed him to juggle multiple responsibilities while pursuing his dreams. David's story is a testament to the idea that life's setbacks aren't roadblocks, they are stepping stones. Every challenge he encountered helped him build the strength and determination he needed to succeed. His mother's words had been right all along. This wasn't the end of his story. In fact, it was only the beginning. Today, David continues to grow his business, and he often reflects on how his journey through hardship prepared him for the success he now enjoys. His setbacks didn't stop him, they fueled him. Every challenge was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to pave the way for a stronger finish. In your own life, when have you faced a setback that turned out to be a stepping stone to something greater? David's journey didn't stop with the success of his e-commerce business. As his company grew, so did his vision for the future. He was no longer content with just making a profit. He wanted to make a lasting impact on the world, much like his mother had influenced his life with her strength and compassion. After his mother's battle with cancer, which she eventually won, David became passionate about health and well-being, both for people and the planet. He realized that his company's success could be a platform to promote not just sustainable products, but also a sustainable way of living. He had seen firsthand how the stress of caring for his mother while juggling work and school had worn him down, and he knew that others in similar situations could benefit from the lessons he had learned about resilience, self-care, and balance. His first step was to expand the mission of his company. He didn't just want to sell eco-friendly products, he wanted to create a community around them. He began incorporating educational content into the business, offering tips on sustainable living, mental health, and physical wellness. He partnered with environmental activists, nutritionists, and mental health advocates to create a blog and social media presence that promoted a holistic, healthy lifestyle. This shift in focus led to the company launching a new initiative. A portion of their profits would go towards cancer research and support for families dealing with serious illnesses. David felt a deep sense of fulfillment in being able to give back, especially after all the support he and his mother had received during her treatment. His customers appreciated the company's commitment to the cause, and it only deepened their loyalty. As his company continued to grow, David was invited to speak at business conferences across North America. His story of turning setbacks into success resonated with aspiring entrepreneurs, students, and anyone who had faced difficulties in life. He spoke openly about his journey, sharing not just the highlights, but also the dark moments, when he almost gave up on his dreams, when he felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, and how he found the strength to keep moving forward. At one such conference in Seattle, David met someone who would become a key figure in his life, Amy, a fellow entrepreneur who had started her own business focused on mental health advocacy. Like David, she had faced numerous setbacks in her life, including her own battle with anxiety and depression after losing a family member. The two bonded over their shared experiences of struggle and resilience, and their professional relationship quickly blossomed into a deep personal connection. Amy's passion for mental health opened David's eyes to a new side of his mission. While his company had focused on sustainability and physical health, he realized that mental health was just as important, if not more so. Inspired by Amy's work, David decided to create a new branch of his business, one dedicated to promoting mental well-being in the workplace. He knew from experience how stressful the entrepreneurial journey could be, and he wanted to help others manage that stress in a healthy, balanced way. Together with Amy, David launched a series of workshops and online courses aimed at teaching business owners, employees, and students about mindfulness, stress management, and the importance of mental health. They incorporated their own personal stories into the content, making it relatable and impactful. The courses became popular, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, when many people were struggling with isolation, anxiety, and uncertainty about the future. David's commitment to mental health didn't stop there. He and Amy co-authored a book titled Stronger Than Setbacks, which detailed their personal journeys and provided practical advice for overcoming life's challenges. The book became a bestseller in both Canada and the United States, and they were invited to appear on major talk shows and podcasts to discuss their work. As the years went on, David's business continued to thrive, but it was no longer just about selling products. It had become a movement that promoted sustainable living, mental health awareness, and resilience in the face of adversity. David had built a community of like-minded people who supported each other through life's challenges, much like his mother had supported him through his darkest times. Despite all his success, David never forgot where he came from or the struggles he had faced. He frequently returned to Vancouver, visiting his old neighborhood and giving talks at local schools. He wanted to inspire the next generation, to show them that setbacks are not the end of the road, but rather the beginning of something greater. He encouraged them to dream big, to work hard, and to never give up, no matter how difficult the path ahead might seem. One particularly memorable moment came when David was invited to speak at his old high school. Standing in the same gym where he had once played basketball, the same place where his dreams had crumbled with his injury, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. He spoke to the students about his journey, about how the injury that had once seemed like the end of his life had actually been the start of a new, even more fulfilling chapter. After his speech, a young boy came up to him and shared that he too had recently suffered a sports injury and felt like his future was over. David knelt down, looked him in the eyes, and said, "This is just the beginning for you. Trust me, every setback paves the way for a stronger finish. You'll see." That moment brought everything full circle for David. He realized that his journey wasn't just about building a successful business or overcoming personal struggles. It was about using his experiences to help others. Every setback had taught him something invaluable, and now he was able to pass those lessons on to others. David's life became a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of mental and physical well-being, and the belief that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you can always rise stronger. His story continued to inspire countless people across Canada, the US, and beyond, proving that every setback truly does pave the way for a stronger finish. And as for David and Amy, their relationship flourished both personally and professionally. Together, they continued to build their businesses, support each other through life's challenges, and spread the message of resilience, hope, and healing to the world. David and Amy's relationship deepened as the years passed, both in their personal lives and in their shared mission. Their businesses grew rapidly, but more than that, their vision of making a lasting impact on people's lives became clearer with each milestone they achieved. Together, they formed a partnership that was stronger than either could have imagined, not just as business collaborators, but as a couple. Their success had put them on the map, and soon, they were approached by several organizations that wanted to collaborate on larger-scale projects related to sustainability and mental health. One of the most significant was an invitation from the Canadian government to work on a national campaign focused on youth mental health. With rising awareness of the mental health crisis among young people, the campaign sought to provide resources, create awareness, and combat the stigma surrounding mental health issues. David, having dealt with his own struggles in the aftermath of his setbacks, saw this as a powerful opportunity to contribute something meaningful. Amy's experience in mental health advocacy, combined with their shared knowledge of resilience, made them the perfect pair to spearhead the initiative. The project, titled Stronger Together, was designed to bring mental health education into schools across Canada. They held workshops, provided resources for teachers, and developed online tools that students could use to manage stress, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. It wasn't just about surviving adversity anymore. It was about thriving in a world where setbacks were inevitable. During the early stages of the campaign, David and Amy traveled to cities and small towns across the country. They met with students who shared their stories of depression, anxiety, and the pressure to succeed. Many of these students came from similar backgrounds to David's, working-class families with little access to mental health care. Hearing their stories reminded David of his own struggles, and it only fueled his determination to continue this vital work. One particular visit stood out. They were in Calgary, speaking at a high school that had experienced a recent tragedy. A student had taken his own life, and the community was still grappling with the loss. David and Amy met with the students' parents, who tearfully thanked them for bringing attention to mental health in schools. It was a sobering reminder of why their work mattered so deeply. David realized that while he had turned his setbacks into success, many people never got that chance. It reinforced his commitment to make sure that as many young people as possible had the resources and support they needed. In addition to the school visits, David and Amy used their platform to lobby for systemic changes in how mental health was treated in Canada. They met with policymakers, advocating for increased funding for school counselors, mental health services in rural areas, and comprehensive programs that would ensure no student was left behind. Their efforts culminated in a series of new policies passed by the government aimed at improving mental health care across the nation. Back home in Vancouver, David's business continued to thrive. His e-commerce company, now rebranded as EcoWell, was a leader in the sustainable product space, expanding into markets in the US, Australia, and Europe. But David's focus was no longer just on growing his business. He wanted to use his success to give back. He started a scholarship fund for students who had faced significant life setbacks but still pursued higher education. The David Thompson Resilience Scholarship was designed to honor his journey and help others like him find their path forward despite their challenges. Meanwhile, Amy had launched her own mental health platform, EcoWell, which provided online therapy sessions, mindfulness courses, and community support for those struggling with mental health issues. With David's help, EcoWell became a national movement, offering resources and tools for individuals and organizations looking to prioritize mental health in their daily lives. The platform's reach extended beyond Canada, gaining traction in the United States and Australia, where mental health awareness was becoming an increasingly urgent topic. On the personal front, David and Amy had built a life together that was grounded in their shared experiences and values. They moved into a home in Vancouver, close to David's mother, who had fully recovered from her battle with cancer and was now an active part of their lives. David's mother often reflected on how proud she was of her son, watching him turn every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. She was the anchor that had kept him grounded through his toughest years, and now she enjoyed watching him thrive. As their businesses and personal lives flourished, David and Amy began talking about starting a family. They both felt that they had built something meaningful together and wanted to raise children who would grow up with the values they cherished: resilience, compassion, and a commitment to helping others. In 2028, they welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Grace, after the quality that had guided them through the hardest moments of their lives. Balancing their family life with their business commitments was no easy task, but David and Amy thrived on the challenge. They brought Grace along on their travels, introducing her to the world of social impact at a young age. As parents, they were determined to raise her with the understanding that setbacks were not something to fear, but something to learn from. As the years went on, David's legacy grew. His story of overcoming physical, emotional, and financial setbacks inspired countless people. He was invited to speak at universities and conferences around the world, and he used every opportunity to remind people of the power of resilience. His message was simple but powerful. Life will knock you down, but it's how you get back up that defines your success. By the time Grace was old enough to attend school, David's impact had reached global proportions. His company, EcoWell, had become a leader in sustainable living, and Stronger Together was now a worldwide initiative that had been adopted by countries in Europe, Asia, and South America. David had become a symbol of hope for those who had faced adversity, a living testament to the belief that every setback truly does pave the way for a stronger finish. In the quiet moments at home, David would often reflect on his journey. From the young boy who had lost his father and seen his basketball dreams shattered, to the entrepreneur and father who had built something meaningful from every hardship, David had come a long way. He knew that his story wasn't just about his own success. It was about showing others that they could do the same. For David, every setback had been a lesson, and every lesson had paved the way for the life he was living now. And as he looked at Amy and Grace, he felt nothing but gratitude for the path that had brought him here. David's journey had reached heights he could never have imagined in those early days when he felt lost and defeated. He had built a thriving business, started a movement around mental health and sustainability, and created a beautiful family with Amy. Yet through all his success, he remained grounded, never forgetting the path that brought him to where he was. As his life progressed, David continued to embrace every opportunity to turn setbacks into stepping stones for growth, not just for himself, but for those around him. As the years rolled on, David and Amy continued to expand their reach and impact. Grace grew up in a home filled with love, purpose, and the belief that no challenge was insurmountable. David and Amy made sure to involve her in their work from an early age, teaching her the values they had built their lives upon: resilience, kindness, and a deep commitment to improving the world around them. One day, when Grace was about 10 years old, David took her to a small town in northern British Columbia. The town was struggling economically, and many families were facing difficult times. David had been invited to speak at a community event about entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity, and he wanted Grace to see firsthand what it meant to lift others up, especially when they were facing challenges. As they walked through the town, Grace asked her father why some places seemed to have so little, while others had so much. David knelt down beside her, explaining that life wasn't always fair, but that it was their responsibility to do what they could to help others. "It's not about how much you have, Grace," he said. "It's about what you do with what you have. And sometimes the people who have the least are the ones who show the most resilience." That day, David's speech focused not just on business or success, but on the power of community and the importance of supporting one another. He shared his own story of setbacks, of growing up with a single mother who worked tirelessly to provide for him, of losing his chance at a basketball career, and of finding a new path that ultimately led him to something even more fulfilling. He reminded the audience that setbacks didn't define them, but how they responded to those setbacks did. After his speech, a young boy approached David, much like the boy who had come to him years earlier in Calgary. The boy looked nervous but determined. He told David that his family had recently lost their home due to financial difficulties, and that he wasn't sure what his future held. David knelt down, just as he had with Grace earlier, and told the boy the same thing he had told himself years ago: "This is just one chapter in your story. The tough times won't last forever, and you'll find strength you never knew you had." It was moments like these that reminded David why he had chosen the path he was on. It wasn't about the accolades, the business growth, or even the financial success. It was about making a difference in the lives of others, helping them find their way through the challenges that life inevitably threw at them. His own setbacks had prepared him for this, shaping him into someone who could offer more than just words of encouragement. He could offer real, tangible help. As Grace grew older, she began to take an active role in her parents' work. She showed a natural talent for communication and empathy, much like her mother, and she quickly became a key part of the mental health initiatives that Amy had started. Together, the three of them formed a family team dedicated to not just maintaining their businesses, but expanding their social impact. In the mid-2020s, David's company, EcoWell, took on an ambitious new project. Recognizing the growing threat of climate change and the increasing need for sustainable living, David and his team launched a global initiative to provide eco-friendly housing solutions to low-income communities. Partnering with governments and nonprofits, EcoWell developed affordable, sustainable homes that were energy efficient and designed to have minimal environmental impact. The initiative, called Home Green, aimed to address both housing insecurity and environmental degradation in a single stroke. The project was a massive undertaking, and it came with its fair share of challenges. There were bureaucratic hurdles, funding issues, and logistical difficulties. At one point, it seemed like the entire project might fall apart due to disagreements among stakeholders. But true to his nature, David refused to give up. He drew on his experience, remembering all the times he had faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and he worked tirelessly to bring everyone together. After months of negotiations and revisions, HomeGreen finally launched its first pilot project in a struggling neighborhood in Toronto. The homes were an immediate success, providing affordable, sustainable housing to families in need. The project garnered international attention, and soon, other cities and countries were reaching out to EcoWell to implement similar initiatives. As the HomeGreen project grew, so did David's sense of purpose. He knew that his life's work had evolved beyond what he had ever dreamed possible. What started as a small e-commerce business had become a force for global change, and David was humbled by the impact he had been able to make. But even as the accolades poured in, David never lost sight of the personal connections that fueled his passion. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning for the next phase of HomeGreen, David sat on the porch of his home in Vancouver, watching the sun set over the mountains. Grace, now in her 20s and a rising leader in her own right, sat beside him. She had recently graduated from university with a degree in environmental studies and had joined the family business full-time, bringing fresh ideas and energy to the table. As they watched the sunset, Grace turned to her father and asked, "Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't gotten injured all those years ago?" David smiled, his eyes softening with the memories of his younger self. "I used to," he admitted. "For a long time, I thought that injury was the worst thing that could have happened to me. But now, looking back, I realize it was a blessing. It pushed me onto a path I never would have found otherwise. If I hadn't faced those setbacks, I wouldn't have you, your mother, or the life we've built together." Grace nodded, understanding the depth of her father's words. "I'm glad things turned out the way they did," she said softly. "I can't imagine it any other way." David reached over and squeezed her hand. "Neither can I." As night fell, David reflected on how far he had come. From the boy who had lost his father and his basketball dreams, to the man who had built a life of purpose, love, and impact. His setbacks had not broken him. They had made him stronger, more compassionate, and more determined to help others overcome their own challenges. In the end, David's story was not just about business success or personal achievement. It was about the power of resilience, the importance of community, and the belief that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you can always rise stronger. Every setback had indeed paved the way for a stronger finish, not just for David, but for everyone whose lives he had touched along the way. And as he looked out over the Vancouver skyline, surrounded by the people he loved and the work that fulfilled him, David knew that his journey was far from over. There were still more challenges to face, more setbacks to overcome, and more lives to touch. But now, more than ever, he was ready for whatever came next.